I hope you are getting the recording for us today. Okay, just to see your hand up, I have invited you up to the stage. Vidal, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, guys.
Hi, Adel. Nice to have you here.
Hey, Xenops, I see you with your hand up. We're going to do questions at the end of the session. Can I ask you to hold on until we get through our program? Thank you. Okay, it's 2 after. I don't want to penalize the people that showed up on time, so let's go ahead and get rolling. My name's Rico Flan. This is the weekly OL community meeting. I want to welcome you all to the community meeting, particularly if it's your first time here. For those of you who are new to the scene, we do this every week. It is a stand-up of community news. It's a quick roundup of all of our working groups. And we usually have people either present on some of the work that they're doing, or we'll sometimes have outside speakers, as the case may be. Today, we've got a presentation from Coin1111, who I don't see with us just yet, and also something from Shashank. So we will get to those things in a bit. Shashank, if you want to come up to the stage and lurk, feel free to put up your hand and I'll invite you up. Okay, so we usually start out this meeting with a quick overview of the state of OL and where we are right now. And where are we right now? Well, this is day 130. And what we mean by that, it's been 130 days since we announced the project to the world. The current epoch is epoch 148. We have 74 validators in the set at this moment, and we currently have just shy of 1,500 Carpe users active at this moment in time. Our Discord community added about 200 people this last week, and we're sitting at 3,100 and some change at this point. So continue to grow, slow and steady, which is good. We'd prefer to see a small, engaged community than a large, indifferent community. So little by little, we're getting there, guys. Since the last meeting last week, a couple of things have happened. There was a new research article published on delay towers that was written by two of our community members, Shashank and Arnaud, and hopefully we'll get some more information about that later on in the meeting today. There was also, if you've been watching the crypto news world, the launch of a new system called Aptos. Aptos is a fork of DM run by some of the people from the DM and Novi community that left Meta and spun off their own business to build on DM. They pulled in a very significant amount of funding from, I think it was led by Andreessen Horowitz, but there are also others in there as well, at a fairly stunning valuation, considering that it's a brand new startup launching on an unproven product. But all good news for us, because it means there is yet another player in the Move ecosystem. There's more people developing and tooling for Move, and there's more upstream maintainers on the DM code set. They don't actually have a product in deployment yet. We don't know when exactly they will be launching something and have a chain that people can build on. There's some speculation, maybe we're talking about 6 months or so, but we just don't know right now. And then the other news from the crypto world that's relevant to us this week is our partner Miston Labs announced their new blockchain, their new L1, which is called SUI, S-U-I. It has not been launched, it has merely been announced. It is under development, but moving pretty quickly. It is not a DM fork. However, it does employ Move. So just this last week, we've had 2 new L1s announced that are employing Move. which is great news again for us as a Move native platform. So some interesting things happening around the blockchain world right now, and definitely having an impact on community and buzz, particularly in relation to the Move ecosystem. Hopefully, some of you saw the video that was produced by the YouTube influencer who was promoting the Move ecosystem as an undiscovered gem. And mentioned in there in very positive terms the OL project, and drove some of our membership gain across this last week or so. So hats off to those guys as well. And then the last news item I wanted to surface before we get into the roundup of the working groups is we did discover a bug this week in validator onboarding, and actually technically it's in how the set is selected for validators. That impacted somebody who was onboarding as a new validator. Has been working with our dev team to figure out what in the world is going on there. We've got a theory. We think we know what it is. We think we know what the fix is. And engineering is looking for a worker right now. And I mean the engineering working group. We're looking for a worker right now to take on tackling that fix. So if you've got any cycles, that would be great. It does impact all new validators. So it is something we'd like to get sorted out sooner rather than later. Okay, with that, let's transition over to a review of what is going on, or what was going on with the working groups across this last week. A couple of our people are out right now. We've got one person in the midst of getting married. We've got another with COVID. And so I'm doing double duty today and covering the meeting minute updates for everybody. So let's start with the engineering working group. Engineering working group had a really good turnout this last week, over 10 people. We started that meeting out by having a quick chat about Aptos and how we want to engage positively with them on technical issues. We also got an update from Coin 1111 on the bridge project. And again, hopefully he's going to join us and be able to talk about that later today. I still don't see him in the audience, though. All right, we'll worry about that later. We also got an update on payments that were being made out of the Inclusion Engineering Fund. We're caught up on the bounties that needed to be paid, which is great. Adal spoke with us about Carpe, and Adal's with us today, so I'm not going to go into the Carpe updates, Adal. I'm just going to flip it over to you in just a second, okay? The Make Whole project right now, we lost the worker that was working on that. It came in through Gitcoin, and it didn't stick for a variety of reasons. So we are looking for a worker to take care of the Make Whole for us. And for those of you who are new, the Make Whole addresses an earlier bug in the system that resulted in an underpayment to some of our Carpe miners. So we owe those guys coins, in other words, and we need to get that fixed. And then the rest of the meeting was really spent debugging this problem with validator onboarding and defining where we thought that was. So all things said, a good work session that moved the ball forward on several fronts. And Adal, are you ready right now to talk to us about Carpe updates and where we are with Carpe Dev? Do you want to just take over?
Sure, Rick. Thanks. Well, last week we planned to release three features for the Carpe app, but one of them was lacking of automated tests for the API. So I just asked the developers to do that before we, make a release with it, and it's done by now. But we are only testing two features in the current candidate release. So the first one is the language framework. So thanks, Pink, for that. Now we can translate the Carpe app for multiple languages. And the candidate release we are testing right now already includes Chinese by Ping, French by Eshex, and Portuguese, which I translated myself. The other feature is the account events view, which allows us to browse through the account events to see the received and sent payments, and which can allow us to move forward with a coin transfer feature. In the last days, I was fixing minor issues related to the account events and optimizing query comments to save node resources and to provide a better feature behavior. We are about to publish this candidate release in the next few days. And the next steps are related to the wallet type feature, which I will merge soon, the PRs from Libra and Carpe repos. And we need to test a lot this feature locally and create a new candidate release, to move forward with the flow. Following up, we have the merge and test for the coin transfer feature. I also need to check if something's missing, like compliance with the language framework. But we probably will create this exclusive candidate release next week. I would like also to ask you guys for any kind of help, if you could help with the translation. Next week, we probably will have Italian translation, but if you feel comfortable to translate to your mother language, please feel free to reach out, to contribute with it. And we also need some help, for bug fixes and other issues. So if you are willing to help us, please just raise your hand or join us on the Discord channels. I would like also to thank Nudrill for a bunch of things he reminded me this week about how the nodes behavior regarding the database. Also the Stagile guys for creating the tests that I have asked them to implement for the wallet type feature. Ashix and Pink for reviewing my PRs and translating the text to Chinese and French. And Jacqueline, Daniel, Ashix for testing the candidate release and provide great feedback. So 10 guys, I mention you all because we don't have many people working on the project and every help is very welcome. So I guess that's it for today. Back to you, Rick.
Excellent. Thanks for that, man. It's good to see the progress on that. Getting Carpe to the point where it's actually a functional wallet in a traditional consumer sense is huge. So thanks for your work on that, man.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's talk about analytics next. The analytics working group met last Friday. That meets every other 2 weeks, so that's why you haven't heard anything about them in a while. Last week's meeting took care of some nuts and bolts things. They did their elections for their working group key role, and B was elected to be the coordinator, MZ the archivist, and Saturn the broker. So they have firmed up and sorted out their key roles, and I think that pretty well takes care of all of the working groups in terms of electing their positions at this point. For those of you that are new to the community, the working group key roles are elected positions that are held for 3 months. Those are paid roles that are paid out of a specific wallet for community programs. And so if it's something that you'd like to do and be more visible and be a leader in the community, join the working group that's of interest to you and get in the queue for the next election. Analytics working group also took a look at open work issues, particularly the make whole computation. They identified where there was a gap in the data on the make whole that our workers needed to be to execute that, and they have taken on getting that sorted out. We also talked about future work and projects that might reside with the analytics working group. There's 2 things that are of interest there. One of them is the analytics required by the Hustle Karma working group. The Hustle Karma working group currently is using a manual process for recording all payments, and you can find this on the handbook right now. So if you want to see who's getting paid for what work and how much they're getting paid, et cetera, that's all available in the Hustle Karma reports on the handbook. But obviously, we want to move that to an on-chain system, and we'd like to have a better dashboard so that people can extract the information that's useful to them, while, of course, maintaining privacy and such and not getting people in trouble with things. So Analytics has agreed graciously to take on that work, which is great. So hopefully we can get our bounty payments and our cash flows within the community into a transparent and best practices status. The second project that they undertook, which is also really big, is they agreed to take on ownership of the Validator Scorecard. Now, for those of you that are new here, the Validator Scorecard was one of the prerequisites that we needed to get sorted out before we can launch the Teams proposal, Teams being delegation. Now, why do we want a validator scorecard? Because we want the Carpe miners to be able to have some objective criteria for making a decision between validators so they can select the validator whose team they want to be on, in other words. And so that scorecard captures a mix of objective and subjective factors, or we could call it hard objective and soft objective factors. Specifically, things like, hard factors would be, does their node comply with the hardware requirements, or have they been good about uptime, right? Were they down during the last set of cycles, et cetera. And then the sort of soft objective factors are things like, is this person engaged in the community? Are they responsive when there's troubleshooting and upgrades, et cetera? And so the analytics group is going to take this on. They're going to look at the factors. They're going to look at the weighting. They're going to look at the mechanism we use for scoring the validators and drive that through to completion for us. So that's a great decision on their part. They're absolutely the right group for that. And, it puts that firmly in the hands of people who are focused on dealing with that kind of data. And it'll get us to the point then where hopefully we can get the prerequisites in place for launching teams at some point in the near future. Okay, let's move on now to the branding and comms meeting minutes. And just a reminder, the branding and comms working group meets immediately after this working group every week. So if you have any interest, join us at the top of the hour. Last week with branding and comms, we reviewed Elliot's revision of the short list of the logo ideas, and we're getting very, very close on this. We're down to 2 shortlisted designs at this point, and there was a lot of good conversation about those designs. Elliot was going to revise those in line with the discussion for us to review today. So if you're really interested in this topic, this is a good time to drop in. Design Sage has really been driving this and doing a great job on this. Elliot's work is very, very good quality. We're quite excited about the directions that this is going. Our plan, once we get down to the final 2 designs, is to then present them to the community for the community to take final decision on and provide feedback on. So that side of things, the brand and the visual identity, is making very good progress. Where we're a little stuck right now is on comms and content. We really need workers there. And a couple of people across the last week or so have put up their hands, so hopefully some relief is coming on that. But if you have an inclination to blog or to help with social media presence, or even to help with things like website maintenance, please put up your hand. We'd love to see you come to the branding and comms working group or reach out in the comms and content channel and make your presence known. We also talked about the community meetings and how do we get better exposure of things like meeting announcements and community news. We talked about the possibility of moving the community meeting to Twitter or to Zoom. We do have options there, but we really had a mixed result with that discussion within the group. Quite a variety of views were expressed, and we finally landed that by saying we're just going to take this to the community for ideas and for a vote across the next week or so. So expect to see that topic surface for the community to express an opinion on. And who knows, even if we don't actually move our community meeting out of Discord, maybe we'll try doing a couple of special events someplace else or something like that and see what kind of engagement we get. It would be nice to have some more visibility on what we're doing. All right, let us move on now to the governance working group. The governance working group last week is really starting to get sunk into some very interesting topic areas. In addition to talking about how do we move to a community governance system, there's a good discussion launched on the subject of whether we want to go down the path of a DAO. And if so, what exactly would that look like? For those of you who are familiar with the DAO space, you'll know that there is not just a whole lot of tooling outside of the Ethereum ecosystem and now in Cosmos as well. So, it's a bit problematic for us in the sense that we're sort of confronted with the decision of whether we want to homegrown a tooling set. The upside being that it would be something that would be reusable by other people who wanted to launch DAOs outside of Ethereum, which is very interesting. But the downside, of course, is that's a big lift, right? And we're already resource stretched. There has been some discussion with Radical Exchange about taking a look at the Radical Exchange Voice product, which would provide proposal management, discussion management, and quadratic voting functionality. That is something that does seem to align pretty well with what the governance group thinks would be a positive path for us. So I expect we'll continue exploring that across the next few weeks. We are sort of working on a high-level take on how the balance of power is expressed in the community, where our governance mechanisms are lacking, and how best we can get this to a position that gives us true community governance and lives up to the promise of being a decentralized community. Really, a DAO-governed L1 is probably the vision here. And, you hear some equivocation in my voice. That's simply because this is a community decision, not a RICO decision. I do believe it's a very, very interesting way to go, but there are open questions. The other big discussion that happened at the governance working group related to digital identity. And this is something that we've been kicking around for a while in the governance group. We all know that digital identity and having a functional digital identity within OL is really sort of atomic. It's a building block. That primitive could take a variety of different forms. We've looked at some novel solutions. And right now we're looking, or several members of the group are looking at the W3C DID implementation and standard to see if this is something that is appropriate for us. We will be having that discussion tomorrow at the governance working group. If you have any experience in working in that space, whether it's DIDs, DAOs, or community governance in particular, definitely encourage you to come join us. There's some very interesting stuff going on with governance right now, and I expect that you're going to start seeing us surface more of that into the community meetings so that we can broaden the debate on that topic. Excuse me. Okay, the last working group we need to hit today is Hustle Karma. The coordinators working group we're not doing today because they meet every other week. Last week was their week off. So Hustle Karma, really great turnout. We had a dozen people online for the Hustle Karma working group meeting yesterday. There was, as we went around to all the different working groups, what's happening with their bounties, things seem to be functioning fairly smoothly, but sort of a macro issue arrived. And that macro issue was really, are we approaching our bounties optimally in terms of creating incentives for workers? We know that we're resource stretched right now. There is an argument that perhaps we should up dramatically the bounties to inspire more workers. This is something that we're kind of batting around the room right now, and we're figuring out what that does to the sustainability of the community wallets that we draw on for the funding. I think philosophically everybody's on board with the idea, so it's perhaps there will be some adjustments going forward, or perhaps at least some experiments with these things. But again, if you've got an interest in these things, come join the discussion at Hustle Karma. We also tackled the problem of defining the amount to be paid to the working group key roles and to our community manager. We decided basically to benchmark that against what we're doing with our moderators right now. And so we're assembling a spreadsheet for everybody to look at and take a pass at and get that done. So we've got our payment mechanisms in place. Now we just simply need to establish the amounts of the payments, and then that will begin to flow. So those of you who are holding working group key roles, bear with us. We're getting close on this. Okay, so that is the roundup of what's happening with all the working groups today. If you are interested in joining any of the working groups, you'll find them under the events tab in Discord. You'll also find them on the community calendar in the community calendar channel. You can subscribe to that calendar and you'll get all of the meetings and things on your Gmail in your proper time zone. It'll make your life a little easier if you're trying to keep up with things. We were slated to have Coin1111 talk about his bridge work today. Or the bridge project. Bridge work sounds like we're talking about orthodontics. And we also have Shashank joining us, who's going to talk about the new research report that was published this week on delay towers. So Shashank, let's go ahead and start with you, and I'll go chase Coin1111 while you are talking, okay? Over to you, buddy.
All right. Thanks for inviting. And so I know professor from University of Toronto, and I have been working on a paper for the time before Libra has been named to DM, and we finally got it out. It's mostly the work on the delay towers, which is being used at OL, and how we are using delay towers as a mechanism to decentralize permission DM blockchain, and how the validator set is being selected after every epoch. The specifics of the implementation plus some of the experiments were being done and presented as part of that paper. I think that's mostly it. And we will try to share that paper on Twitter soon through the official accounts. And it would be good to tweet it and share some love on it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Shashank. I actually sort of outed you on that paper already and posted it into the social channel and the general discussion channel here on Discord. So, and I also slammed it on my Twitter to get it out too. So good to see. I mean, you know, you guys looked at delay towers from the perspective of a hypothetical blockchain, right? You didn't actually attribute it directly to OL and to the development of OL. Is that correct? So you called it something else. What did you call it in the paper, or what did you call the blockchain in the paper?
We call the framework as L4L, like Liberty for Libra is what we internally meant. It's because this could be taken as a framework for any permission blockchain in general, and OL is one successful instance of such implementation. But it could be generalized to any blockchain, like any permission blockchain setting.
Cool. Thanks for that. So anyone who's interested in this, you can find the links within the general discussion channel and the social channel, or just reach out to Shashank or Arnaud. They were the authors of this paper. It is fairly dense, it is fairly technical, but it is an interesting read. Okay, I've reached out to Coin1111. He does not appear to be available right now, so I don't know that we're going to get the update on the bridge project right now. Zucky, I'm curious, would you be interested in saying any words about Aptos and SWE and what you think this might mean for OL?
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing is we are going to see two major new blockchains that are going to use Move, which are going to expand the Move ecosystem considerably. And I think that's going to be very exciting for the emergence for OL as a place that people can bring their Move code and their Move development. I also think it's I think like one of the things to recognize is that like while Aptos is roughly extending the parts of the DM architecture that we use, SWE is like something that's really radically different. It might be, if the OL community decided that they wanted to follow the SWE direction instead of the Aptos direction, or carve out our own direction. I think it's more likely, SWE would be almost like a complete rewrite of OL. We could definitely take, some of the application state and some of these things, but like applications that are written for OL probably would not easily be ported to SWE, other than just sort of the general improvement in Move tooling that will come, and like the increasing number of Move developers. I think it's going to be an interesting thing, like to have these different environments that Move can run in emerging.
All right, excellent. Thanks for that. Okay, so I am going to go start wrapping us up, but before, there's a preview of what's coming, which is April the 6th. So that's 2 weeks from today. We will have Sam Blackshear of Miston Labs speaking and presenting on Move and the future of Move development. For those of you that don't know Sam, not only is he the CEO of Miston Labs, he's also the creator of the Move smart contracts language.
CTO.
Excuse me?
You said CEO, it's CTO.
Oh, he's the CTO. Sorry about that. I've got my C-level titles screwed up. So Sam is key to Miston Labs and also creator of the Move smart contracts language. So join us definitely April 6th. Help us spread the word on that. Next week, we'll try to get Coin1111 to show up and talk about the Bridge to Ethereum project that he's been working on and making very good progress on. A couple of other reminders. Number one, we are looking for dev workers for a couple of things, including the make hold, right, to put the coins back in the Carpe wallets. That's an easy one to get done, to prioritize. We also need some work on fixing this bug with Validator onboarding. So please reach out to Zaki or Dee Borum, who are helping manage the engineering working group right now, or join the engineering working group on Mondays. One final thing I'll plant a seed with. Not only is the governance working group doing some really interesting stuff around DAOs and around digital identity, there's also a an examination being done of our present tokenomics and the sustainability of our economic schema right now. There's been some preliminary modeling of the subsidy scheme, which is being circulated for people to review right now. And we're also modeling gas revenue as well. Now, if you have any interest in tokenomics, this is someplace we'd like you to get stuck in, because it is distinctly possible that we do have a medium-term problem relating to capitalization of our community wallets. And in the absence of VC and outside funding, we made the decision we weren't going to go that way. We need to make sure that we don't run into that wall and starve the project of cash. So right now we're trying to determine, one, is there a problem? Two, what's the extent of the problem? And three, is it appropriate for us to engage in some sort of remedial action to avoid this problem? So it's not something that's looming over our heads right now, but it's best that we get on the front end of this and get it done and not just simply be reactive. So again, there's another area where we could use more help, and the governance working group's the right place to go, or reach out to me and I'll steer you in the right direction. Okay, at this point, it's over to the crowd for questions. Does anybody have a question or a comment they'd like to make? If so, put up your hand. I'll invite you up to the stage. Anything else from Adal, Shashank, or Danielle up here on the stage? You guys have anything you want to add?
Not really, Hick.
Okay, well, with that, we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you next week, and we'll see you online between now and then. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.